Presentation is the result of the work conducted by these 4 members of our center who have been given the task by the center's coordinator to look closely at the research center's labs. The research center has a laboratory structure which is unique when we consider similar education research structures in Portugal. They were thought as organizational structures to articulate 3 dimensions: research, teacher education, and community interaction. Therefore, labs were defined also as structures with social responsibility, producing and sharing knowledge to respond to the community needs and expectations. Currently, there are 8 labs with different internal dynamics and equal research distribution, and in many cases with reduced articulation between each other. So there is a quite shared feeling that it is important to rethink the labs in their conception and organization so that they can respond in a more effective way to social challenges in agreement with the mission of our center. Therefore, the aim of this study is, as it is still ongoing, to collectively reflect on possible changes in labs and on the understanding of what these structures are. From the very beginning, we understood that this would have to be a collaborative and dialogic process. So both the coordinators of the labs and the research center members were called upon to make their contribution.
So far, interviews were conducted with all lab coordinators who were asked to identify strengths and weaknesses in the labs in general and in their lab in particular, and to present suggestions for a restructuring of the labs. A second round of interviews was conducted to the new lab coordinators using the same interview protocol and analysis procedures. Finally, drawing on the results of the interviews, a questionnaire was sent to all members of the research center to identify their understanding of a lab. In the questionnaire, researchers were asked to describe in a sentence what a lab is and then to name 3 requirements a lab should have.
In terms of the lab strengths, coordinators emphasize in descending order lab's uniqueness as identity markers of the research center and in fulfilling a tripartite mission, lab's roles in providing internal cohesiveness of its members and in making the work visible, and finally the fact that labs work as support structures providing resources such as a physical working space to its members. As for the weaknesses, coordinators highlighted the unclear representation of the labs, the absence or overlap of specific working foci, lack of articulation, and different internal dynamics. In what concerns the second interview question, all coordinators except for 2 were in favor of rethinking the labs. However, they cautioned that this should be a carefully thought out process and obey to agreed criteria. They also considered that the concept of the lab should be amply discussed within CIDTFF. This was the reason for creating the questionnaires. We received 113 responses out of a total of 193 CIDTFF members, that is around 60% of replies. When suggesting a definition for a lab, the more frequent respondent suggestions fell around the following ideas. A lab is a collaborative workspace, a structure with a common research focus, a cluster of researchers, which are not entirely consistent with the lab's conceptualization. Regarding the main requirements a lab should have, respondents emphasize in descending order the need for human resources, considering that labs should have multidisciplinary teams that are motivated, proactive, cohesive, and stable, the need for a clear identity, and material resources. Then somehow answers highlight the resources, human, material, and physical, dimensions related to the organization of labs.
We will finish with some final remarks. First, the methodology has involved the actors of CIDTFF, and this will be expanded in the near future. Results allow us to reinforce the need to rethink some of the existing labs, but that this process should continue to be negotiated. Results also show some misunderstandings about what a CIDTFF lab is, which prioritizes the need to enhance such discussion. The authors would like to acknowledge all members of CIDTFF who have accepted to collaborate in our study and the constructive feedback of the critical friend, Maria Helena Ruggiça. Thank you.